All right. We are back at the podcast studios in Belmar today, and we have a very special guest. We have Brian Mirsky from Veranda Technologies. Good morning, Brian. How are you today?
Good morning. How are you?
Good. Brian and I met 15 years ago, as we were just discussing before we started here. We both became members of the Brick Township Chamber of Commerce in 2009. And, you know, as people that have listened to the podcast, at the time in 2009, when the Chamber of Commerce was recommended to me by Tom Medalli, I kind of chuckled at him as I said, Tom, what am I going to do at the Chamber of Commerce? But the Chamber of Commerce at Brick has been a great asset to Wingman, and we've met many great people, do business with many people, became friends with many people. And Brian has had a similar experience as he joined. I remember way back when I took over the website and I was looking for domain access. It was the first time I ever called Brian, and I was like, hey, I need some help. I'm doing this. So that's how our business work started, and then we've become friends since then. So you started in 2009 too. You took a leap from a corporate job.
I was working in corporate, doing IT. Loved the work, but not the mentality. Worked for a company we talked about a little earlier that the job was just to answer the phone, go in and solve a problem.
Solve the problem, but not build a customer relationship.
No customer relationships. You barely knew. You only went in for the person that you were going in for. You didn't even really know anybody else in the office. And I knew you could do better. A friend of mine knew you could do better. He actually left. It was Eric, who I was telling you about.
So Eric left before you left?
He left before I left, about a year, maybe a year and a half before. Started his own company.
And he wasn't in New Jersey, right?
Correct. Yeah, we actually met at a holiday party.
A holiday party for this?
A holiday party
for
the company in Atlantic City. Both of us just starting families, having kids around the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Went down to AC. He wasn't a gambler, so he kind of hung around with me for the night. And then 6 months or so later, he said, I can't do it anymore. I know this can be done differently, and I have a different vision for how I want to handle customers.
Every entrepreneur thinks they could do it easier, better, and differently. I mean, if you listen to a lot of the podcasts, everybody says the same thing, and then you get into it and you're like, whoa, what just happened here?
Yeah, well, and it's funny, we joke. I joke to this day, 15 years later, that he told me all of the highlights of owning a business. You choose your own hours, you make 100% of the money. He left out things like 100% of zero. Some months is zero.
Yep. And you still have cost of goods sold, and you still have, and the phone rings, and, it's no longer 9 to 5. Like, entrepreneurs are funny. They'll work 100 hours so they don't work 40 hours for the man.
For the man, right. Now you're building something for yourself. You're building equity in yourself, and that's great. But also that, again, the relationship with the client. So I have 15 years later now, most of my clients I consider family.
Yeah, and you've built a great business locally of people that know and trust you, and they can expect that if you say you're going to be there at 2 o'clock, you're going to be there at 2 o'clock, and you're going to work on the problem until it's solved. That's you don't have that. Well, it's not my problem. It's not my fault. It's not. Sorry, we'll come back in 2 weeks. And I think that's why a lot of the local companies that you do work with here that I know of, use you.
Sure. Yeah, and I take it a little bit farther too. Part of it is not just, I didn't want to be the guy who came in and just fixed the problem, but we look at the whole business. So I'll sit down with business owners and say, listen, your last 6 months you've been growing. Maybe we try this, or you might be able to get 3 people in this office instead of the 2 if we reconfigure things a little differently, or I have several clients that have opened satellite offices now, so or in acquisition mode, buying other local agencies similar to theirs. So
you did the connections here for our satellite office, which is awesome, because the first time I came to Belmar, I didn't need to put in a new Wi-Fi password.
That's true.
That was a game changer for me. I couldn't say enough good things about that.
That's awesome.
I didn't even think it was I didn't know it was possible.
Sure.
Again, we're in similar businesses, but we're in very different businesses.
For sure.
I'm on the web side of the house, and after the A record really is my
that's right.
DNS level, whereas you're everything but the A record,
right.
and you're into all the other things of the hardware. and making the offices run.
And even little things like you're talking about, for some businesses, it wouldn't matter because their staff don't travel back and forth between offices. I know in your case they would.
Everybody is.
Everybody's going from one, they're coming down here on
Yep.
podcast day or whatever. So to have the same name, the same Wi-Fi name, SSID name, and password, so that you could just take your laptop and float between offices.
That was brilliant. Now, just so I know, is that done at the router level? Or?
It is,
Okay.
yeah, on whatever device handles the wireless network.
Now, if we had Comcast in one and Optimum in the other, can you do it? Right now, we're both on Optimum. That's why.
We can, because we're not actually, not to get too deep in the weeds, but your offices have a router in between your network and the provider.
Got it.
So we're doing it on that device, not on the Comcast device.
Perfect. So going into the Grit. So 15 years ago, you have a young family.
Yes.
Because I know you have one daughter in college. So you have kids that are very young.
I actually only had Miranda, my oldest now, was the only daughter we had at the time when I started the company. She was probably 2 or 3.
So
she's 18,
she's
19 now. So.
She's 2 or 3, and you're now going to go out on your own and be a business owner.
Yeah, it was pretty dumb.
Like that's, and you're a little bit older in when people start businesses.
For sure, yeah. I started at 36. I was older in life, although we both know people. I think you've had Mark on. Mark's in his 60s and started a business recently. So Mark Rosen's.
Shout out to Mark Rosen today. Chamber member too.
Chamber member, Royal Stitch and Print.
Royal Stitch and Print. Good guy.
Yeah, so I started, I consider late, but again, and it's funny, I joke with the kids when I do the career day with the Chamber of Commerce.
Yeah.
It's the career day at the high school. We talked about this a little. I'm 52 now. I don't know what I want to do the rest of my life.
Yeah.
So you can always start over.
100%. So so you decide you're going to go out because you could do it better. You don't like the way that the big corporate IT was run. You have a friend that started a colleague, a friend that started 6 months a year ahead of you.
Yep.
So now he gives you all this great advice. Oh, you're going to set your own hours. You're going to make 100% of the money, and then you realize like 100% of a small number is still a small number. But on the other side is it took some grit and it took some perseverance to get out there. And you're more of an introvert than an extrovert.
I am. I like you. I didn't love the idea of joining a chamber. Eric told me it was mandatory for his arrangement with me that I would have to join a local organization like that or multiple. I joined 2 or 3. Found the Brick Chamber as my home, my family. But I wasn't into. You're forcing yourself out of your comfort zone. You have to go out and meet new people and.
You only grow when you're uncomfortable, though.
I got a young family. I'm up till 11 o'clock at night doing invoicing because I'm out 8-9 hours a day doing the work.
Yeah.
It was tough. Now, for me, we could almost see an end in sight even back then, although it took a lot longer than I expected and certainly a lot longer than my wife expected. But I was working miserable hours to begin with. So I went from working miserable hours to working miserable hours. It wasn't as bad as had I done it a different way, but it's a lot of work. It's long days. The first 10 years we didn't go on vacation at all. I think in 10 years we took 1 trip to Disney, 1 7-day trip. We did some 3 and 4 day weekends, but in the first decade of owning a business, we went away 1 time as a family. It's
hard. I mean, and again, in your world, because the technology is in a lot of these offices, and you're running the show, so it's.
Oh, and you need to be up. I mean, you've been without internet for 4 hours before.
Oh, it's miserable.
It's awful.
And it's funny. It's here, anytime the internet goes down for us, I get a call. A couple weeks ago, the internet went down in Belmar for a little while, and Tony called me and said, "Well, what do you want to do? There's 5 people here.
Yeah.
So now you got to think about what that cost is,
right,
on a hard cost basis."
And do we think it's down for 5 minutes?
Is it down for 5 minutes, or is it down for 5 hours? Because if it's down for 5, if we think it's going to be down for 5 hours, go home and continue working, or come to Manasquan and continue working.
Yeah.
If it's 5 minutes, well, go get a coffee and come back.
Yeah.
So,
is there an ambulance up on the bridge with a telephone pole knocked down, or
Thankfully, I think down on where we are in our 2 locations, our internet, knock on wood, does not go down.
Yeah. You guys have been pretty solid.
And we put on a better connection in Manasquan so that we have less. We are on fiber now, so.
Yeah.
But overall, knock on wood, it's been good. But I mean, you have some other clients that have some older.
Oh yeah, I mean, I've got clients that, you know, when they started, they had one computer in the office. You know, it was I've been doing this a long time. Not since that wasn't true when I owned my business, but I've been in IT long enough where companies had one computer and everybody kind of shared it.
Yeah.
So yeah, part of it is managing the growth and expectations, but also, you know, listen, I can go away anytime I want, but I'll come back to one less customer.
Yeah.
If somebody has an issue during
Yeah,
the time
that's the
I'm
hard.
away, I can't expect them to wait around for me.
Yep,
So,
and you're a hands-on operator too.
100%.
The good thing though is you do have some technology because we have restarted access points from your phone.
Oh, the advancements they've made in tech. I love the fact that I can be on the parkway at 85, 75 miles an hour.
You have a Tesla, it drives itself.
It does. But yeah, restarting an access point or a switch.
Which is very convenient because
I was at a client the other day, a mutual friend of ours, Andy, called me and he said, I'm having a problem at Jackie's office. Can you reboot their router? And I'm like, yeah, no problem. 30 seconds later, we rebooted the router.
that's
So
great. That's key to success. So that at least can get you out a little bit more. But I mean, so you don't go away for the first 10 years. You're explaining to your wife how you're running a business and how you have to be accountable. And,
Sure.
you know, again, I think that's in your personality and that's who you are as a person deep down, is that you care about relationships, you care about
For
your
sure.
clients, you care about people that you're helping, and the expectation is, you know, important to you.
Yeah, and also I think important to note for those first 10 years, I guess 12 years, and my wife still works full time to this day. She works harder than I do actually. But she was driving to an office up in East Brunswick.
Okay.
So I mean, she's out 10 hours a day
Yeah.
as well. So we've got two daughters. She's out 10 hours a day.
In the
starting
office.
in the office, physically going to East Brunswick, Kennedy Boulevard every day.
Which is not around the corner from where you live.
No, working an 8-hour day there. So she's out of the house for 10. And now we've got two daughters, you know, 3 and 7,
Yeah.
with doctor's appointments and school
activities.
schedules and activities and Girl Scouts and everything else. So,
Yeah. So it was a bit of a hustle.
Little bit of juggling, sure. and I'm joining chamber organizations and committees.
And you're like, oh, I gotta go out. I got a networking event. And your wife's like, wait, what? You're gonna go have a couple beers while I'm sitting home?
Exactly. Yeah. We're over at River Rock or Fridays back in the day.
Yep.
Trading business cards. Back
Yep.
when we traded business cards.
I still use a business card.
Yeah.
I like them. I have the dot card and I have the digital profile, but
Sure.
I still like them.
I've got a business card holder in my wallet. It's empty most of the time.
Yep.
I gotta remember to fill it.
There you go. So now kind of what do you see, like, so 15 years in, you've overcome, they say like something like 75% of businesses fail within the first 15 years. Because again, owning a business is not easy. It's a sacrifice from your family. It's a sacrifice from, just working a 40-hour week is other things going on. So 75% of people fail within the first, 15 years. So now where do you see yourself going? What do you want to continue to accomplish? What's the next step?
So far I get up every day and do my thing. I joked earlier, but at 52, I still don't know what I want to do the rest of my life.
Yeah, and a couple of years ago, you had a very crazy experience.
That's the
So-
word you're looking for.
So, I mean, you were working outside of your house at the end of 2021, and you weren't feeling well, and
I wasn't. And looking back, I actually hadn't been feeling great for probably a few months before that, but we hadn't put the pieces together. So I'd have lightheaded spells after, like carrying a laundry basket up the steps, for example. If I walked up the steps without carrying anything, I was fine. If I carried something heavy, like a computer into a client, I'd feel winded for a few seconds. But I recovered quickly.
but you never thought anything of
I
it.
never thought anything of it. I figured maybe age, COVID had been a thing, and maybe I had something. So it's one of those things that guys, I think, particularly ignore medical issues.
Totally.
I hadn't had a physical in probably 7-8 years.
I always say I'm just going to drop dead one day because I always think when I'm not feeling well, I'll feel better tomorrow. That's my mentality of, all right, this hurts today, tomorrow it's going to feel better.
Yeah, I had a few bad work days in a row. Everything will improve. So Yeah, I ignored it and we didn't put the pieces together till after. But yeah, what you're talking about is November 13th, 2021, I was outside working in the yard, clearing leaves, cleaning up the property and putting up Christmas decorations on trees. And I do all that myself. And at some point apparently felt something. I don't remember any of what I'm about to tell you, but I came down off a 28-foot ladder from the gutters of the house. And this we know from the cameras, with cameras on the property, security stuff. I walked inside and I told my wife, something's not right. And I woke up 4.5 days later in Ocean Medical Center.
That's crazy. Oh, man. So, I mean, from a business perspective, that had to change your point of view on some of what you do, I would think.
So it was a learning experience, and for the first month or so, seeing doctors and meeting cardiologists and trying to figure out what happened, the assumption was that it was some kind of a stress-related heart attack, right? Because I work hard and I was doing a lot, and that day I was particularly active. This turned out to be completely unrelated. I developed an electrical issue between my brain and my heart, where the brain had been slowing down the heartbeat over time, which is why I hadn't been feeling right up until that point, and why now when we go back and look at doctor's records, so like even like 8 months or a year before that, I'd had a colonoscopy. When you look at the records of that appointment, my heart rate was in the high 40s, which is probably too low for somebody my age, height and weight, everything. On the day of the heart attack, they can tell that my heart rate was 31, and then of course 0 when I had the cardiac arrest. It went to 0, and I was down for clinically dead, not pronounced dead, but clinically dead for between 20 and 26 minutes.
And you have a shirt too.
I do.
What does the shirt say?
I'm back. I actually designed it in Photoshop. It's a heart with a heartbeat through it. It says, and I'm back.
I've seen you wear it.
And I'm back.
So that's great. That's great that you have a light side to that.
Find a picture of that, we can throw it in the cup.
Yeah, definitely. Send us a picture before the podcast releases. We'll get that in there. So, I mean, from a business perspective, how has that changed the way that you do business?
Well, and that shirt kind of epitomizes my drive. Is always, I don't know how else to explain it, but I designed that while I was home laid up. And I sent it over to Jay at Shorty's and said, hey, I need a couple shirts. And he emailed me back. He goes, who's this for? I'm like, me. He's like, oh my, so we had a little back and forth. But
hopefully he donated that shirt to you.
I paid for it. I wasn't going to ask for handouts. But I had those before I was even back driving. I probably had those in my possession before I went to that first chamber meeting. So my wife actually had to drive me. We had a year-end, forget if it was a benefit or an awards dinner.
It was the awards dinner.
Dinner, I believe, in December in 2021. I'd been out of the hospital for maybe 3 weeks after getting after having the cardiac arrest, but I hadn't yet gotten the pacemaker in, and still went to a chamber event. So yeah, my drive is still the same. They do say that most people that have specifically cardiac arrests, electrically induced cardiac arrests, like I had, many never go back to work, and most suffer from anxiety, PTSD, because they're worried about if it's going to happen again.
Do you struggle with any?
I went the other way. One of the first questions I asked the cardiologist after we determined I was going to live a few more days was, when can I start going on roller coasters again? Go back.
And you're an avid fan of roller coasters.
I'm a big fan of roller coasters. I do love roller coasters.
So that's good that wasn't a cause of this, and you've been back on roller coasters since?
I've been back on roller coasters. I've been to Vegas 3 times. We went to Jamaica. I hiked Watkins Glen, New York. So yeah, no.
So nothing's stopping you.
I'm back.
You're back. All right, that's
until the battery gives up,
and then in 7 years you get a new battery.
7 years I get a new battery, and yeah, my mental state's the opposite of many people that have gone through it. I figure I've got the pacemaker, I'm invincible now. Nothing can happen to me.
I totally agree with you. It's like you got a shield on now. Yeah,
I'll get cancer or something, and it'll completely take me by surprise. But no, I'm back, but also trying I'm still not great at it. Wendy will tell you I'm still not great at it.
Shout out to Wendy, Brian's wife.
My wife. But I am trying to recognize that you need to spend more time with, your kids and the family and travel more. I've never been great at that, but trying to get better.
I'm not a great traveler myself.
I'm a great traveler once I'm away, but it's that cutting off, and
I'm usually good by the second day. You know what we did last time? When I went to Curacao last year, I forwarded my cell phone to my office.
Okay.
So Kristen took all my calls, but my text worked and my email worked.
Sure.
So like if I needed to get in touch with someone, I could get. And I did outbound calling versus taking inbound. That was a game changer for me.
You didn't do that for a number of years, though.
No.
We're very similar in that. You want control, I want control.
2020, December 2023 was the first time I ever tried it. I am going to go away again this year. We're working on finalizing a trip right now, my wife and I.
Where are you going?
We're looking at a couple places,
okay.
But it'll be. I'm a Caribbean. I'm a kind of relax and go to a place that you don't have to do a lot.
That's my kind of vacation. It's Wendy and I talk a lot about, and our plan, if everything works out well and we all stay healthy and can get to retirement and travel. One of our biggest problems is she wants to go places and learn and immerse herself in culture, and I want my toes in the sand and staring at water for a week. So I think you and Cindy are probably
we're in the
similar,
same camp. Cindy has done a couple of trips on her own where she's gone to, like she was in Kenya recently, and great. She did a lot of photography there, and she's going to this bear excursion coming up later this year. And again, she's going to take pictures and be close to a bear, like close as maybe not you and I, but
right, sure.
Me and John over here.
Sure.
And to me right now where I am in my life, I am nowhere interested in that. I'm more in toes in the sand, like Zach Brown says, and So, but I think as time goes on and I get to I'm out of more of the day to day, or
sure.
Once I retire, I think that I would enjoy to learn, and I love to learn. So
I love to learn.
I think that it will be great.
When I'm on vacation, I don't necessarily. The other thing too, so I have a friend Brian who travels a lot, and I could travel more like him, I think, than my wife, where it's like, all right, yep, that's the Eiffel Tower. What's next?
Yep.
Okay, I've seen the Grand Canyon. What's next? My wife's got to open the brochure and buy the book and learn about it. And that's great. She wants to appreciate it and embrace it. I want to see it and then see the next thing.
I'm more with you. I'd like to get a camper at some point and just go around the U.S. and
that would be nice. Yeah.
That kind of a cool way to travel. I always try and figure out like a way to do something with a camper and the business, like go city to city and do some sort of something. Maybe me and Andrew will do podcasts across the U.S. and we'll just
that'd be great.
Be a good way to expand our knowledge base. But
could fly out previous podcast participants to.
Oh, now you're on the flight, Andrew.
Right.
We got a guy who wants to be on the ongoing podcast exchange. So
I'll do the one in Hawaii, not the one in Alaska. But
sure, Kristen will take Alaska.
Kristen will take.
Shout out to Kristen, who lived in Alaska for years.
She did. I just learned that recently.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh yeah. She came back from Alaska 4 years ago and came to Wingman. So now, where do you see the business going, and then going forward? Now that as you start to think about life and what's important and family and doing it for 15 years,
sure.
What's kind of the plan?
Right now, I mean, I've got great clients. Fortunately, I've got some of the best clients in Ocean and Monmouth County, and just continue taking care of them best I can. Hopefully, pick up a few more along the way, but also try to not step back, but spend more time with the family.
Mm-hmm.
Miranda's 19 now, so she's leaving. She did 1 year at Ocean County.
Where's she going?
Rowan.
Rowan down South Jersey?
Down South
Oh,
Jersey.
awesome. That's great. What is she studying?
Criminology and psychology as a minor. For the moment. We'll see if that seems to be, I think she's probably pretty set. It's the 15-year-old we're still on the fence with, a little worried about.
Give her time.
She's got time.
That's great. So, all right. Well, this was a great chat. I'm glad that you were able to come in. And as we wrap up, let everybody know where they can find you for your IT services, both on your website and social medias, so that people could reach out and talk to you if they have issues.
Sure. Yeah, our website is Veranda, Veranda Technologies, or verandatech.com. Brian at Veranda Tech is my email. Our phone number is 732-743-5772. And we're on Facebook, facebook.com/VerandaTech. So.
Verandatech.com. All right, Brian, well, thank you for coming on. Thanks for telling your story. I love to hear a story of we started roughly the same time, and just kind of watching you in the community and doing great work. So thanks again for coming on today.
Thank you.
Awesome.